Hey guys, in this video we'll be continuing with the C# tutorials. So in this video we'll be learning about the switch statement. So the switch statement, it's a bit of a tricky statement. I'd say it's the trickiest of all the loops. Well, it's not necessarily a loop, but it's the trickiest conditional. I'd say. You have to practice with it, but it can be useful, for example, in games and stuff. So there's different uses for it. Basically, we'll just talk about it. So the switch statement lets the value of a variable or an expression determine which path of execution the program will take. So it's kind of like those books, if you've ever read them, choose your own adventure or whatever, choose your own path. So like you read a page, it'll be like, if you want to go to this page, go to this page, but if you want to do this, go to that page. So it's like you can choose your own, how the story ends. It's the same thing, so it's like when it gets there, if the switch is that, then it goes that way. If you want it to go that way, it can go that way. So it's kind of like it's like a path with like different directions. It's like a fork in the road kind of thing. So if you find yourself at a fork in the road and you can pick a path to go. You either go one way or go the other, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, where they try to figure out when Dumbledore and them, no, not Dumbledore. Oh, I just made myself laugh. Would I smoke, right? No, I'm joking. So pretty much Gandalf and them are in the they're in the cave where that was, I think it's a lesser demon, where Gandalf dies the first time. They find themselves choosing which way to go. One way goes to the goblins, one way goes out. That's what it is. So it's like, it just, hopefully you guys get the idea. So let's just take down some notes here. Sorry for the long explanation. Just trying to explain the best I can to put some real life examples so you guys could maybe see, kind of visualize what's actually happening. So you come to a path and you can either go one way or go the other, basically. But so the switch statement lets the value of a variable or an expression determine which path of execution the program will take. So it's the value, though. That's the thing. It's a value. So we'll talk about that coming up. We'll do an example. So another important note to discuss is that the switch statement. So the switch statement is a multiple alternative decision structure. That's kind of the actual terms for it in C#. Pretty much in any language that uses a switch. So it allows you to test the value of a variable or an expression and then use that value to determine which statement or set of statements to execute. There's a UML diagram here. I'm just going to skip that. Oh, I could just explain it. So you could have a flowchart with a diamond symbol, which shows a variable such as like month. So month can be the name of the variable. If the month variable contains a value 1, the program displays January. If the month variable contains a value 2, the program displays February, and so on, March, April, whatever. So this is a path that leads to 4 different roads, basically. So let's go to the actual code example. We could have a general notation, but I'll probably just skip that. Let's go with the actual code example here that we'll just do in the notes. So let's just say example 1. Sorry, let me just get a sip of my water here. Alright, so let's say switch so it's basically, okay, let's just talk about this. So let's just have a boot, basically, well, let's just do a switch of the actual month. So let's just say switch month. So let's just say case 1. So if month has a value of 1, then we'll say message box dot show, and we'll show the month January in the dialog box. We'll say break. So you have to include the break. I believe if you miss the break, it just automatically goes to the next case. So here we say case 2 colon, not a semicolon. So make sure you use an actual colon here. Not a semicolon so after the case and then the value. We'll say message box here dot show February. Case 3 March. Then case 4 message box dot show April. Okay, so then we should make sure you always, actually we didn't need a case 4. Let's just delete that one. So let's just go with so at the end of your choices you should have a default case, which would mean that if month contained any other value than 1, 2, or 3, then you'll say default. You don't have to write case. Then message box dot show. You can just say default case. Or you could say default case not a month or something. Make sure you have a break. Oh whoops, I totally forgot all the breaks. Apologize about that. So let's just go with case 2 here. Break case 3. Then break. Default break. So just remember after each case, whatever the code block you want, and then break. It's a little bit of a tricky conditional. So you have to kind of just practice it. It's like a while loop. You have to say while, or a for loop, or a do while. I think we did all of those. We should have. But basically you say, okay, well in this case I want to switch the variable. So switch and then this variable in the parameter here. And you say case 1. If the value is 1, then I want to do this. Then I want to break and exit. So when the break happens, you exit to the nearest the bottom curly bracket. If the value isn't 1, it's going to check, okay, is the value 1? If it's not, then it's going to skip, is the value 2? If it's not, it's going to skip, is the value 3? Not going to skip. If not, it's going to skip. Then it's a value, any other value than 1, 2, or 3. If it is, then it'll perform the code and then then break. Sorry, it'll execute the code block and then break out of the switch. So that's pretty much it. So we'll just talk about a little bit more of this code here. So the test expression is the month variable. So the test expression, sorry, that's probably to do with the general notation, which I skipped. So let's just talk about that. So the test expression is a variable or expression. It's basically to go with, it's the conditional. So it's this right here. This is it's basically the expression, I guess they call it the test expression. Did we talk about that? I'm just checking if we did. I don't think we did. Actually, we did. We said the switch statement lets the value of a variable or an expression. Okay, we said or. Okay, so let's test expression. We can just remember that. I don't think we really need to note it down. Just remember that this part here is the test expression, so we could just maybe comment that beside that it's the test expression. Okay. So the first line of the statement starts with the word switch followed by a test expression, which is enclosed in parentheses. The test expression is a variable or an expression that gives an integer, string, or bool value. I believe what they really meant to say is that the test expression basically is a variable or an expression that holds an integer, string, or bool value. That makes more sense. So several other data types that we have not discussed yet are also permissible, so we'll get onto those later on. The important thing to remember is that the test expression cannot be a floating point or decimal value, so that's interesting. But we'll just note that down as well. Can't be a floating point or decimal. Floating point means like double or decimal, pretty much. So beginning at the next line is a block of code enclosed in curly braces. Inside the block of code are one or more case sections. A case section begins with the word case, followed by a value, followed by a colon. Each case section contains one or more statements, followed by a break statement. Each case section must end with a break statement. At the end is an optional default section. The default section must also end with a break statement. When the switch statement executes, it compares the value of the test expression with the values that follow each of the case statements from top to bottom. So it first compares the values and matches it to one of the cases. If not, it takes the default case. Excuse me. So when it finds a case value that matches the test expression's value, the program branches to the case statement. The statements that follow the case statement are executed until a break statement is encountered. At that point, the program jumps out of the switch statement. Basically, it exits the switch. If the test expression does not match any of the case values, the program branches to the default statement and executes the statements that immediately follow it. Make sure to include a default case. If not, it'll just exit. You might have to include it. I think it depends. Just double check. Make sure you include it though. So I think we talked about pretty much everything here. At that point, the program jumps out of switch statement. Okay, we just said that. So if the test expression does not match any of the case values, the program branches to the default statement. I think we just said that. Yeah, so pretty much we said that. Didn't we just do this example that I have here? Nope, that's the part that we skipped. Okay, so then we have some more description here of what we did. So in this example here that we already did, this one here, example 1, the test expression is the month variable. If the value in the month variable is 1, the program branches to the case 1 section and executes the message box show January statement. So that's the same thing for everything. I think we can skip that here. So the switch statement can be used as an alternative to an if-else-if statement that tests the same variable or expression for different values. So for example, the previously shown switch statement works like an if-else-if statement. So I believe what we're going at here is that this switch is exactly equivalent to this. If month points to 1, message box.show January. Then we'll say else if month points to 2, message box.show February. Else if month points to 3, we'll say message box.show March. Whoops. Then for the default case, of course, that would be else because it's any other option. Or any other, whatever, any other value, whatever. Then message box.show default case, not a month. So that's it. Excuse me, so that's it. That's the switch, so we'll probably do a lab with it at some point. So you have to practice them, so once you use them more you'll get it. Honestly, I just go with the if, else, if, else, if, else. As you can see, it's exactly the same. I usually would just rather use that. You can use a switch if you want, some people use it. It's just up to you, it's exactly the same thing. As you can see, it's exactly, we just did the exact same thing. Switch month, so month just checks if it's 1, 2, or 3. Or something else, but in this case we said, okay, well if month is 1 then do this, if month is 2 do that, if month is 3 do that. Minus that double quotation there. But yeah, that's it. So feel free to just use a if, else. If you're like me, you'll probably just go with that Sometimes you may want to use a switch. The if else, if whatever, it's just easier to me. If else, because look, you have to write, have a look here. When you switch a variable, you have to say, okay, case 1, do this break. Which one has more lines of code? The switch does. So if you're trying to do something quick, I just go with if else. So that's just me. You may prefer the other one. We may prefer the other one over the if else or whatever. So whatever you want to do. You may like both, I have no idea. You can just use them whenever you want. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel to support the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.